we're going to be talking about online community policies and guidelines. Again, very similar to how last week was, usually if you're joining a community that's already been established, usually they already have policies and guidelines, so this is not going to be particularly useful. However, you're going to need to advance and grow these policies and guidelines as you get more members, as your members kind of grow your community, and if you implement certain new tools, you want to make sure that your policies still protect the members and your team and all of that good stuff. So let's just get rolling. And again, we're just going to keep this pretty short, but I did have a couple of user submitted questions. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come in, but we'll get to that at the end, and you're welcome to obviously cut out. It should only be about 10-15 minutes long. Alright, so online community policy and guidelines. Unfortunately, with no photos, using memes this time. Alright, these policies and guidelines are designed to protect you and your employees, to protect your members' privacies and rights, and set the foundation for how you want communication to occur. So the first thing you want to do is start with a simple statement, give a brief description of the policy and guidelines and what they're for. Just looking at a few of the guidelines that are pretty well established and have been part of online communities that are effective and have been lasting for years. The very first, well, not the very first one, but one of the oldest online and well-established online communities as well. The first thing that you'll see here is their first very simple statement. The WELL as a community functions as on a mutual respect and cooperation. So as we've looked through the members and what roles they play, this is also very important to it. Obviously you'll have trolls, but in your policies and your guidelines, you want people to understand that it's for mutual respect and cooperation. They right off the bat have gotten that straight. However, where we have a site like Wells Fargo online community, they've set the pace with an iron fist. They've mentioned that any post that your community posts, it will be moderated and looked at and reviewed no matter what. And then looking at Flickr, they're a little bit more lenient. They like to have fun with their community, but what they pretty much do is break down what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But we'll cover the different aspects and looking at best practices in a minute as well. And then finally, this is an example that we usually don't see for privacies and guidelines. This is almost all legal mumbo jumbo, and it is written in all caps. That's how you know it's all legal mumbo jumbo. No one's going to read this. Usually when it comes to policies and guidelines as well, your members probably won't read it, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure it's there. It protects you, it protects your members, so it just needs to be there. In some instances like Facebook or Twitter, people love to dissect their policies and all that published documentation, especially anytime a new feature is rolled out on Facebook. People like to raise red flags and dissect different aspects to make sure that it's not stealing information or you don't appear to be the product, and that's just kind of based on how Facebook ads work, but that's an entirely different story. Right. So building on to that first part, you want to explain what role members play. Now you don't need to break it down to such specific things like we did in the first time, but you really want to let them know the different aspects of why they're there and why you've provided that community. So it's quite simple. Initially, you want people to be civil, you want people to be nice. Unfortunately, you will have trolls. It's just part of having an online community, but that's just, you know, part of the whole process. You want people to ask questions, and you want your members to answer questions. Actually, one of the initial barriers that gets surpassed when it comes to online communities is having people fulfill their safety needs. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail on communication theory or Maslow's hierarchy of needs until a future class, but I'm going to just use this as an example really quick. What you're seeing here right now, parallel to the safety need, is once those people have found that your members are able to ask the questions and answer questions and being pointed in the right direction, it's motivating them to the point where they'll at least maybe build out a profile and participate more in your community. But we'll mess with the whole self-sustaining online community ecosystem model at the very final class, because it's an entire monster, and it will take a good bit, and I'm kind of building the foundation to helping you understand this. And of course, you want your people to either be professional or social. It really, again, just depends on what your community's theme is going to be. At the end of the day, you want to keep your audience in mind. So looking back at what my online community does, it is mostly professional in nature. The content we provide is supposed to inform business individuals. It helps in return our brand to have different terms and information associated with it. So we want people to remain professional. Now, occasionally we'll kind of build upon themes. Like back in May, the CDC created a zombie preparedness guide, and what essentially that really was a mask for how people should be prepared for hurricanes, because it was hurricane season. So we built off that, and we featured opportunities that would relate to a zombie apocalypse. So we found shotguns that the Army needed, some chainsaws that a different state government needed, and essentially we just built off that ideas. So you can have fun with things, but again, you just want to set those guidelines in motion from the get-go.